Greatest innovation in iron metallurgy ever. How you living? No putts given. It's the middle of January, and there are millions, billions. I don't know what the exact number is, Tony. You're counting it up. We have 11,000
Yeah, that
equipment
sounds right.
releases this week. I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for the month. My goodness.
Yeah, it's Christmas in
Well,
January.
it's Christmas in December and January.
It's
It's
Christmas
like
in December, little bit late.
extended Christmas.
So yeah,
I
people,
don't know.
strap in, get your seatbelts on. We have a lot of equipment to cover in this one. So if you're thinking this is just kind of going to be one of those like sleepy, kind of little podcasts, we pontificate on some equipment stuff. That's not it. I have three questions for you, Tony, and this is kind of how I'm thinking about all this stuff throughout it is what do I absolutely need to know? And with each one, kind of what am I excited about? And is there any reason for me to be hesitant? Kind of a pros and cons type deal. Maybe more excited about this golf ball than I should be. Or maybe you can tell me, Mizuno. I'm cautiously
Yeah,
very
this is.
optimistic about these two golf balls, and they have the again, we got the font. This identity, right? That Mizuno has the pro line, and I would absolutely put Mizuno's irons, this pro line franchise. So if you think Mizuno Pro is a brand and you put its irons there, yeah, it's absolutely in the upper echelon of wherever you want to put that. Um, does the golf ball deserve to be in the golf ball world? Does it fit
Well, I
in
mean, we'll
line?
see, right? New models, new updates. I will say, like, we going back to our ball test 2 years ago, which was the first year of what was now the previous RB Tour. I
Right.
loved the Tour X. Like, I loved what we saw in performance, especially off the driver, where you got
Hmm.
really high flight and reasonably low spin. And
Yeah.
actually played with it on the golf course and really loved it off the driver as well. Off the irons, maybe some work to be done there, and that's kind of where they've gone is just improving performance a little bit, right? A little again,
Hmm.
trying to get more speed out of changes to the mantle. Here they have softened things up, so in both balls, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays. And then kind of one of those little things, right? You mentioned the Mizuno Pro script, the name, kind of a more refined look, if you will.
Sure.
And as part of that package too is a change to the dimple pattern where they moved away from I forget off the top of my head what the dimple count was on the previous one, but it was sub 300, right? It was
Right. It was
well
like,
lower than most balls. And as I've said before, there's not really such thing as there's a good number of dimples or more is better, anything like that. But
right.
as kind of when we talked to Chris Vachel over at Mizuno saying, it just kind of looked a little goofy with the bigger dimples, kind of little JPXy, not necessarily refined, didn't
Yeah.
really look like a tour ball.
Right.
So that's what they've kind of tried to do here is improve the cosmetics as well as the performance.
The bar is pretty low, so it's not like they have to do anything incredible to have a reasonably successful launch with this one. So I think, from that position, there's that. And then moving on to the ball that will be the number one golf ball by the end of 2025. I think you can say that without any hesitation or reservation, and not throwing shade at Callaway or TaylorMade or anybody else, but Titleist's lead in every meaningful category is is so much that it's you know
Yeah, and we talked about this with the Callaway guys. They're working hard. They're a definitive clear number two, but the
sure.
golf ball category isn't like drivers and even irons where year to year you can have big swings. Like this
Right, you
is
could have a
this
five
is
10 point
steady.
swing in Metalwoods, right?
Yeah. Overnight. Here, yeah. So this is predictable. This will be number one at the end of the year. It's just a case of, when golfers go out, they buy it, they try it. Do they find that it's better than what they had before? Do they feel like it's the same? Ultimately, are they still happy with it?
Right. Right. So what's different this time around?
Yeah, we'll be quick because we have a full podcast on this coming with the Titleist guys. But your bullet points are, more control. That's more specific with the Pro V1X, and that really just means slightly lower trajectory, more spin around the green on both balls, and then the other thing is more speed off the tee. And this was interesting in so much as like this was not part of the design plan, right? No,
it was
none of the
kind
tour
of a happy
players.
accident.
Yeah, none of the tour players were like, hey, we want more speed. It's a case of when you start to look at improvements you've made in manufacturing. And we talk about this all the time. We'll talk about it more when we get to the Shrixon stuff. But almost everything in golf in terms of meaningful improvement comes down to materials and process.
Yep.
And here it's a case of, steadily improving processes, manufacturing capabilities over the years. They notice like, hey, our yield curves are a little tighter.
Right.
We don't have these balls that are coming out as higher core or too high core. And so we can kind of bump our targets a little bit to the faster side, knowing that we're not going to go over the limit.
Right.
And so really it's, not some magic formula or anything like that. It's just kind of like, hey, we got a little bit better in the consistency department. And so we were able to kind of cheat towards the faster side a little bit, because we can talk about, USGA limits, everybody's right at the limit, blah, blah, blah. First of all, golf balls, not everybody is right at the limit, because again, you've got balls that are trying to do different things, spin in different ways. You don't want them all to be 100 compression, right? You have 75 compression golf balls. I promise you they're not right at the limit. So there's all of that goes into it as well. And then it's just, there's only so much we can control from a manufacturing perspective. And so you can't go so close to the limit that you have balls over the limit.
So we're going to go from golf balls, work our way kind of up through the bag. We have irons, we got hybrids. Maybe we go to irons. Well, no, putters. Let's go putters.
Yeah, putters, right? This is Dave's department. We probably should have had him on for his own. Maybe at the end of the month we'll have him on for the Dave's putter special. I think we do
a big putter launch recap with Dave.
Yeah, so, we'll start. Go Scotty Cameron.
Yep.
2 models or 5 models, depending how you want to count. You get to 5 by taking the number. These are Phantom series, so you're 5, 11, and 11 long models, if you will. Look them up if you don't know what those are. Now available for lefties as well, so big win there. And then you have new releases, a 5.2 and a 7.2. Plumber's necks, kind of small. I would describe them as small mallets that are Fang family adjacent. And it's really like, I think what, the point Dave made in the article is interesting. Like, because they are kind of smaller mallets, they may be a good fit. Smaller mallets with plumber's necks may be a good fit for a guy who is transitioning out of a blade into some forgiving. So as much as it's hard to call a $450 putter a starter mallet.
You're going to start seeing more choices from Cameron. This is, I think, just the first in that line. Mizuno gets to choice differently, right? They're using a modular.
This is like an erector set. The putter, if you were going to basically take a putter and design it based on an erector set mentality, or to an extent, Machine Putter, as I believe, did something like this.
Yeah, Astral has their take on it, which is
it's basically like modular putters, right? So
Even Roll at one point had still does.
M-Craft X, and you can get these. They essentially come with your choice of 3 face pieces. So you can. It's basically the combination of the face and the neck style. So you get a face with either a slant stub or a plumber's neck, and from there you choose your body piece. So they have models 4, 5, and 6. 4 is a square mallet. 5 is a rounded mallet. 6 is a fang shape, which maybe it should be a 7, but let's not nitpick that. And then basically you take a pair of sole weights, and those are what anchor the 2 pieces together. And there's
that's like a little connective part of the sole weights are what hold the 2 pieces together. So
a little bit of a gasket to keep everything snug, keep it from vibrating. When Dave kind of played around with them, he didn't notice anything. And I think it's interesting, right? This idea of a modular putter now. I think realistically, golfers maybe aren't going to be like, you know what, I'm gonna get the 6 with all 3 faces, or I'm gonna get all 3 shapes and in a plumber's neck. I don't think golfers are going to necessarily do that. So in that respect, I don't know from the consumer side how meaningful the modularity is. But if you're trying to fit a Mizuno putter, from a fitting cart perspective, this kind of thing's really cool.
I don't know that this is going to be a huge part of the market. And in fact, it's not. But it does open the door to other pursuits that I thought were kind of cool. Like you could do customized stuff. You could
Say
do
hello
limited
today,
edition.
Michelle Eddy.
You could do limited edition things, right? You could say, hey, yeah, this is the number 6, and let's say there's, we see it all the time with head cover launches and things around the majors or around Ryder Cup events or whatever.
Yeah, and for Odyssey, my understanding, again, Dave's the putter guy here, but going through it and talking to their engineers and R&D guys when we were out there, and even the marketing guys, this part of Odyssey season, this part of the story. There'll be more to come that is kind of more new, right? But this part of it is really line extension. We're going to make more shapes available, bringing back Versa, and then the Versa 90, the inverted Versa, right? So instead of black, white, black running this way, it goes this way.
Ship them 90 or shipped it.
So yeah,
Odyssey is far and away the number one selling putter retail and on use in major worldwide tours, and the degree to which they have a lead in that space was a lot more than I initially would have given them credit for, and I don't know why that is. Like why
like PGA Tour, it's relatively close, but once you kind of open that up and say, all right, let's use the more impressive worldwide tours stat, worldwide professional tours, it's not close, and that's pretty crazy. But again, I think it speaks to both technology and the, as we've seen, right, the availability of just about any shape you could imagine.
How excited? Okay, Strixon. We're gonna go into irons.
Yeah. So interesting.
I heard yeah, this was audacious. Audacious is the word that I'm going to use. I want to say greatest innovation in iron metallurgy ever was the quote in Barba's article to describe this new eye forging thing. Do you buy that?
I mean, it maybe, but we know like forging is not. It's not necessarily where you find groundbreaking performance. Like your groundbreaking performance tends to be in multi-material constructions, and as we get into, like I would put in terms of potential down the road what it means. I'm gonna take Cobra's 3D printing ahead of this all day every day, because forging is forging, and they're doing some things here with what they're calling the mainframe.
Right.
With the mainframe face coupled with the eye forging process, right? So there is some technology here, but at the same time, you don't have kind of the ability that you have with 3D printing. So it's an innovation in the forging space, but I don't know that it changes the landscape in the iron category.
Yeah, and just kind of specifically what we're talking about here is, Strixon's such an interesting one where, again, Strixon's one of the few brands that still works with Endo, which is a premium forging house, certainly putting it on par with others. Companies that went away from working with Endo, primarily it was a price point thing. It was cheaper to do it other places, and they felt they could do it close enough to good enough, whatever the case is. But Strixon's kind of stayed that approach. And this kind of sounds a little bit like what we're hearing from Mizuno. And again,
yeah, that's exactly the point I would make, right? Mizuno has for years talked about a proprietary forging process, right? Grain flow forging.
Yep.
Involves like stretching the material before you bend it, and then grain flow forging HD, kind of an evolution of that process. Yeah. And now Strixon, forged at Endo, now has what they're calling iForge, which is basically a condensed forging process where you kind of use an initial step to kind of create delicate key, they're calling key protrusions is kind of the language that was used.
I know, right? I thought that was
forming these delicate, important shapes, right? And then call it like this is the first step of the forging process. We create like these important, delicate protrusions. So we do that first forging, and then we heat it, and then we forge it again and get to the final shape, is my understanding. So and again, there is, if you look at the conversation, And what they're talking about is it really is like this multi-step forging process that is and aligning grains and things like that. So not
Hmm.
dissimilar from the Mizuno feel story. But the interesting piece here is now in the ZX7. Is that correct? Yeah, they're using a softer material, so a softer steel yet.
S15C.
Yeah, or 1015 in the USA, so
Right.
softer than 1020. So now we have this forging process that is, among other things, designed to produce better feel using a softer material in the ZXi7 as well. So, for somebody who's really looking for outstanding feel in a player's iron, I can't promise that you're going to get it here, but man, this is a compelling piece of the story.
Yeah, I can't wait to hit these next to the Mizuno. Yeah, again, it's one of those things you go back and forth and you kind of think about it like you're right. Just saying it's a softer material doesn't mean it's a softer sensation. There's other things that go into it in terms of mass properties, a lot of
Geometry.
different things there. But all things being equal, I think softer material gives you a better chance to do that. But the problem is, you use a softer material. Well, what's the issue? Durability.
Yep.
Softer materials are going to wear much quicker, so that's why you don't see a 1015 or, like I said, S15C in Japan. Back if you go to, like, remember scratch wedges and stuff, like you saw 1018 being used, which was softer than 1020 or 1025, but the downside being longevity. So this
These
idea
are
of this
10 point, bud.
condensed forging kind of technique, right? It's like, hey, if we can basically, can we keep it really soft where we want to, but firm up the grain structure in other areas where we need to, and reach a kind of better balance of that durability feel, and get after kind of an arrangement of forging that we haven't been able to get to before. Metalwoods. Let's get into some
Well, we
metalwood.
got to do G440 irons.
Oh
Let's not skip
geez.
ahead.
Oh
I know.
geez.
So we'll
My
be
bad,
quick here
man.
again, right? So this is Ping's
Yep.
game improvement iron. Updates are exactly what you'd expect: more speed, higher launch, longer, tighter dispersion. The real selling point for me on these, you can take that for what it's worth, right? Ping data. Your mileage will, of course, vary, but the big thing for me is they're saying, look, you get all of that, and we've shortened the face height and generally made the iron a bit more compact.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the package, new Pure Flex badge, and the whole point of that is to improve feel, support the face, but not get in the way of flexing. Ball speeds, long irons, long and short irons, zero point 0.6 to 1 mile an hour faster. Interesting set matching wedges if you want them. And the notable here is the sand wedge has more of that I2 shape. So
Yeah.
not just, your run of the mill set wedge, some actual thought behind it here. Mixed opinions on these, I will say. Like, you and I hit them at Ping and thought maybe the feel was a little clicky. Dave has taken them out, played with them more extensively than we have, and he actually enjoys it quite a bit. So, go try it for yourself.
Who has the best fairway head cover in the game this year?
We're jumping all the way up to the mini driver. What are we doing?
Well, I don't know. Where do
Okay.
you want to go next? You
Yeah.
want to go hybrids?
Yeah, we'll come back to the PXGC. We'll keep it a secret a little bit longer.
Oh, okay. Don't talk about it yet. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what I was
there
trying to get you to do. Okay, fine. Let's talk hybrids, shall
we
we?
go. Okay. Yeah.
Shall we? Strixon. It's kind of
Yeah.
the fairways and the hybrids often get lumped
Fairway, it's
together.
hybrids. Yeah. So Strixon, ZXI, very very simple story here. Refined shapes, better looking. They kind of felt like we needed to make them better looking, better turf
They
interaction.
they
This
needed that.
seems to be, as
Yeah,
we mentioned
yeah.
last week, right, like a story where more companies are talking about better CG locations again. So improved CG, so that's typically means higher launch, lower spin, and higher MOI, so slightly more forgiving. And the big thing throughout the metalwood lineup, we can touch on it now, but they've really simplified their hosel. So
Mm-hmm.
still giving you plenty of adjustability, but you don't need a PhD and a 200-page manual to figure it out.
Yeah, very much more user friendly, better look overall. Strixon's still in this place in the Fairwood hybrid category. They are still much more in the kind of the trickle down technology point where it's like, hey, we're going to take what we did in the driver. What are two or three of the most impactful improvements we can make and get into a fairway wood and hybrid? And that's going to become kind of the basis for that fairway wood and hybrid. let's jump back to ping because we were talking about the G440 irons. We have the G440 fairway woods and hybrids. We looked at these, like I said, extensively when we were out there, and the things that kind of struck me about this with ping is like you have to really understand ping's big picture philosophy. It's kind of like you need to start, like on Google Earth, like you start way out here and then it like zooms you way in. Like you put in the address, and you go from like the galaxy to the Earth to the continents to the oceans, and then you're at your little local Dairy Queen there or whatever. With Ping, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like you got to understand when they're trying to fit somebody, their co-pilot system and stuff, they're trying to fit you for 13 or I guess 14 with putter, but for every club in the bag. And every club in the bag is a function of what the club next to it does or doesn't do. Right? So you can't just say, oh, well, this fairway was designed to go a little bit higher, which some of them are, or this one's designed to do, cut a little bit of spin or be less left bias or more right bias or whatever it is, without understanding it's doing that because here's what the other ones are doing next to it, right?
Yeah,
So
it's not like let's build everything to just go as long as it possibly can. And so that's, there's been, I'd say in some respects, for everything Ping has done in other categories, fairway woods maybe not as competitive as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that is, almost by design, right? Like we're trying to hit gaps, but I'd say this time around, right, really trying to round out performance and add some options.
Yeah, and same kind of models that we've seen, right? SFT, Max, and LST.
But now, hey, all right, we're going to make a 4-wood in the Max, because 4-woods are becoming more popular, 5-wood in the LST.
Yep.
Going to make them sound better, change the structures again. CG, big part of the story, making them easier to launch across the board, all of that kind of thing. So
yeah, basically they were able to
refine sole shaping.
Yeah, raise crown height a little bit on all of them, between 3% and 7% on the fairway woods. And you say, okay, well, if you raise the crown height, really that should pull CG up. If you didn't do anything else, it would. More material up would make CG go up a little bit. There you go. So again, they're going to look pretty much like what you're expecting them to look like. But you mentioned the 4-wood and the 5-wood. So again, this is that holistic part, like leveraging their Arcos data and leveraging some of their own internal testing. And say, hey, if somebody has an 85 to 90 mile per hour driver swing speed, the lowest lofted fairway wood they should probably play is ding, 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 a 4-wood. Okay, well, what is the best 4-wood we can build for that golfer? Well, in this case, it happened to be the Max. So it's kind of like having an LST, a Max, and an SFT in the different heads. So your 2 is your LST. It's a little more fade bias. 3 and 4 are kind of like the Max. So it's kind of straight, stable, mid-launch, mid-spin, and then 5, 6, and 7 are more just kind of like shades of SFT, from a little bit of draw to more draw. The one I'm most excited about is the 5 LST. I'm most excited about that particular one. I think that's going to be pretty cool. So anyway, where to next, Tony? You pick.
Well, let's stay in the fairway wood and hybrid space, and that brings us to Titleist GT1. Fairways and hybrids, as well as GT2 and GT3 hybrids. Will be quick because this is another case where we have a full podcast with the Titleist team coming up. Hopefully it won't be painfully obvious to everybody that I was not feeling particularly well when we filmed that. Dicey
GT1.
there for a little bit. So anyway, so GT1, fairway wood, and we'll talk about this, touch on it when we cover the driver too, but it's their ultralight model, but also it isn't. In the new release.
Change, yes.
So I mean, here we go. Right, this is a fairway wood. So big changes, right? We now have a flippable weight system.
Oh, yep, fore and aft, as they like to call it, or front and rear, as I like to call it.
This is the ultralight one, but it doesn't have to be. So what they're really kind of talking up here is, it can be the ultralight one. That's where it started, but you can put heavier weights in this. You can build this to standard weight, and then it becomes kind of the high the higher spinning, easy to launch one. And it's, we talk about forgiveness, like, well, MOI is a huge part of it, right? And dispersion is obviously important, and that comes down to face stuff. But really, like, something as simple as, like, if I can't hit a fairway wood in the air, and then I can hit a fairway wood in the air, that's an interesting take on forgiveness in my mind. It is worth mentioning this is the highest MOI fairway wood in the lineup anyway. But, like, for me, just stupid easy to launch up in the air. So
yeah,
enjoy that.
See, the track system's gone in the 3, Tony. Where'd it go?
Yeah. So we'll start with GT1.
Okay, like we said. Yeah, like I said.
So GT1, right? Everything we said about the fairway wood, basically same here, right? Front to back, weighting. The interesting thing to me, kind of nerd stuff, but this one takes the stock hosel configuration here. Your shaft diameter is 0.355. So that is, if you're not in the know, and that is what you would expect with a driver or fairway wood shaft. So these take fairway wood shafts stock. And the idea is that's going to give you, again, promoting what GT1 is all about, right? It's going to give you higher launch and ultimately a softer landing. So it's going to help you create a ball flight that is probably visually what more golfers want to see, more golfers expect. 2 is a little bigger, a little more forgiving. Both have tunable heel toe weight if you want to take that that left miss out or do your best at it in addition to your sure fit hosel stuff. I think, talked about it before, but I feel like Titleist has been all over the map with hybrid shapes and sizes in recent years.
For sure.
TSI overcooked the 3, too small, and then I think
the thing was weight. Yeah, the TSI the 3 was small.
And then 4, I think, TSR, I think they kind of went overcorrected. Yeah. Overcorrected the overcorrection.
Yep.
And so, like, GT2 is, I think it's a good, solid mid-size.
I like the GT2. That was the one that I was
I hit 3 so exceptionally well, and for me, like, this is it. It's reasonably compact. It's not the peanut that TSI
no, but you tend to be steeper, right? So the 3,
and I do, and I've always taken to these compact hybrids, more iron-like, if you will, and this is for me my favorite Titleist hybrid in quite some time.
Okay, let's go to the mini driver first, the one we teased. So
PXG's secret weapon,
the best head cover, the best stock head cover of the year thus far.
PXG's first mini driver, first in the category to launch this year, won't be the last. 300 cc's, so by comparison, that makes it a little bit bigger than what we know is coming from Titleist.
GT2.
Ever so slightly smaller than the current TaylorMade burner, and quite a bit smaller than the Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke Mini.
I think 300 is kind of the might be the Mendoza line, or kind of the definition of mid-size.
Kind of midpoint. So your selling point here, longer than a fairway wood, more control than a driver. PXG is kind of hyping up the versatility of it.
Yep.
And I think in the mini driver space, versatility, I think what you're getting at is, hey, you can hit it off the tee or a fairway, right? It can do two things.
To me, it's really how well can you hit it off the fairway, because
that's really
you shouldn't have much of an issue hitting it off a tee. But yeah,
I have not had time to hit it as PXG does, because it is one of those things, right? I've talked about companies that do not want you to waggle a club that isn't built to your spec. PXG typically sends everything to spec. This was built to my spec, so I am absolutely looking forward to trying it out.
I love that.
I don't. Like, again, it's 300, slightly bigger than the SLDR Mini that I loved and could hit off the deck, but just looking at it, I feel like I can. And I think
a lot of
that's probably half the battle.
Size, right? Some of it's to do with size, some of it has to do with the weight, right? Where the weight's positioned and how, and then sole curvature.
Allocation of size too, right?
Allocation of size, interesting footprint.
Yeah, like for example, the Callaway is despite its larger volume, the face height isn't that much higher than anything, but it just looks massive. And so, like, looking at that, I'm like, I don't really feel like I can hit it off the deck. So, but anyway, yeah, intriguing first mini driver of the year, $450, and there you have it.
Ping GT1 from Titleist, and then also Strixon drivers. Those 3. Of those 3, which one are you most excited about?
The Ping. Certainly
Why?
the Ping. Yeah, I think. Well, I've loved the LST. Almost like G400 LST for me. Like if you want to, at its time, but just like
At its
like
time, it
top.
kind of cracked a code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you want to say like personal top 5 drivers of all time. Like the LST is in the top 3, maybe even number 1 if I sat down and thought about it. So, that one, I'm always like a new LST always intrigues me. I love what they've done here, right? So 3 core shapes. So your Max, your LST, and your SFT are new. Max 10K carries on for another year, maybe probably almost certainly another one coming next year.
Sure.
And having that Max 10K has allowed Ping to take the standard Max and shift it, I don't want to say closer to the LST, but kind of definitely put it more in the middle, the true center.
Further away from 10K for sure.
Right, yeah. So kind of right in the middle, more of a mainstream driver. Interesting. Lower MOI than the previous model. Very un-Ping-like in that respect, but... lower CG, so across the lineup they're saying lowest CGs in G history. So, all right, I traded a little bit of MOI, but I'm going to get better speed, more speed, better optimized launch conditions. So I love that.
You probably already did MOI to burn,
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think
free hosel design. There. I don't have a prop to show you, but imagine like typically on the inside of the club. Most designs, it's a solid sleeve internally that holds the hosel. Cobra has had this open hosel design for a while. There may be 1 or 2 others, but basically saves weight while also creating more flex in the heel section of the driver. So better heel side performance in terms of ball speed, whether you want to call it faster off the heel or just more normalized across the face. So that's
less
intriguing.
Slow.
Yeah. New adapter. Just a little more, just meant to be a little more resistant to the stresses created by the free hosel design. Entirely backwards compatible, as well as
that's good news.
Basically, what you have now will work in this one. If you buy a new Ping driver and decide you like your old one better, the shaft that came with the new one will work in the old. So cross compatibility, and to me, the most interesting part of this whole story, right? We're talking fitting stories this year. This idea of total system weight. And so more on this in the article. Specifics are in the article, but the idea here is by taking data that came, a lot of it from the stack system, you realize that within a swing speed range, you have an ideal head weight and ideal total system weight, which is basically your head, your shaft, your grip. And so they've really kind of taken the heads and optimized them around the idea of total system weight. So LST is going to be heavier. Right? LST's heavier, Max is a little lighter, SFT lighter still. So
So most excited about those. I would agree. I mean, I think the GT1 from Titleist is compelling in the sense that for the same reason as the Fairway would, because they have it in a standard weight build. So it really is going to be, like I said, for the golfer who needs height, needs launch, needs maybe a bit more spin, and either wants to achieve that through a really ultra lightweight design to help them swing it faster because they only swing it 75, 80 miles an hour, or that person that maybe swings it 85, 90, 95 miles an hour, but
it's
but needs that increased spin.
I'm a high spin guy. Mostly because I clank it off the bottom of the face more than I should, but going through those kind of the fit check, if you will, very quickly, my fitter Joey was like, yeah, you're good in GT3. We're gonna keep you right where you are. Try not to hurt yourself. Have a good day. Whereas Philip, who runs our testing department, swings roughly 100 miles an hour, give or take. So, not tour level speed, but definitely not what you would classify as a slow to moderate swing speed player.
No.
But he hits up on the ball, depending on the device you're using to measurement. So, TrackMan and Foresight obviously vary, but he's +8 to +10 degrees up. So tremendous upright. And with that, he is the spin challenged guy.
Yeah,
for sure. He is that guy who needs more spin. And so within the Titleist lineup, there's a strong case to be made that GT1 was best for him. It's a case of, and he's certainly going to try it out, but it's a case of like, can I let my ego go into this? What's, again, the reputation, that they're trying to change is like this is the old man club, and so let's
Because
start
if it
talking
really
about it
were
as no,
just a
it's
fitting thing and you're totally good with that, then it's just like literally going to someone,
yeah,
hey,
and it's
is this shirt small, medium, large, extra large? Which one just fits me the best? You wouldn't say, oh, God, but I really need this medium. You'd be like, you
yeah,
look ridiculous. Why are
yeah,
you
and
wearing
it's
that, right? This
and
one
it's
fits
you
you.
look like it's a modern shape, but it's not. It's not like this massive game improvement footprint. You put a and if you with again that kind of the building it to the standard weight. Your head is basically the same weight as a GT2 and a GT3, so that's not
Yeah,
old man. And you're
yeah,
putting a 65-ish, give or take, gram shaft in it. There's nothing
right.
that screams that's for old man. Like it is a standard weight driver that works really well for Philip and actually looks good at address. So I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
why wouldn't you? But we're weird. I get it.
Yeah. And this is the first generation where it's decidedly not being marketed as just the ultra lightweight solution, which lends itself to that kind of designation that Titleist is trying to fight. So this is kind of the first time they're not going with it. And then we finish up with our dear friends at Strixon, which we bounce back to and forth. And
Yeah,
again,
bring
this
it
one, like you
full
said,
circle.
innovation comes through a lot of performance comes through manufacturing stuff or materials. And with Strixon, it's certainly a materials discussion, primarily, right? TI-72S as a new face material.
Yeah, new proprietary. It sounds like a titanium alloy. They're calling iFlex, designed
Rebound
with their
frame.
yeah manufacturing partners. AI designed face. Interesting topology, right? Kind of resembles a capital I, or as John Barber described it,
The Green Lantern. It's
Green
totally the Green
Lantern's
Lantern. Yeah.
ring. But interesting kind of a face structure. Kind of reminds me of almost like what you would hear in a golf ball, where you have like this, the outer or the face itself is designed to be really flexible. You could say soft like a cover, and then you have like a rigid layer, and then there's another flexible layer, and then a rigid layer, and it's really just kind of trying to optimize the way the face flexes and rebounds. I think it's probably similar to the Mizuno technology, right? That little what their take on I-beam, right, where you kind of have like
Mm-hmm.
almost material coming back to help propel the face forward.
Back forward, right? Right. It's kind of two
So
trampolines. They talk about it. It's,
yeah,
you know, yeah, you
very
got the new
similar.
hosel adapter, which is
So
there.
again, three models. So ZXI is what was the ZX7. ZI Max was was the ZXI, or excuse me, the ZX5. No weights in that one, and the ZXI LS, which was the ZX5 LS in previous iterations. So again, movable weights in the 7 and 5 LS. Simplified 12 hosel position again. No manual required, hopefully. The question mark here is the sound and feel.
Mm-hmm.
Reading through Barba's article kind of described it as like ping, but maybe not in a good way, like when ping drivers weren't at their best.
Right.
Ping with a little bit of an extra ping. Make of that what you will. These are not my words.
Yeah.
So it does sound like we know how driver development cycles work,
Sure.
where you try and bundle in as much innovation.
You can't always
bullshit
push
as
everything
you
forward the
possibly
same
can.
amount at the same time.
Yeah, and then sometimes, right, you end up with, well, this is what it sounds like, and hey, we got to start rolling these things off the manufacturing line, so we don't really have time to go in and tweak rib structures and tune sound and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my between the lines read on this, is
Yeah.
maybe sound and feel isn't ideal, and that just tells you like what can you expect with the next one if that is the case. But again, try it out. If you like it, you like it. If you hate it, that is what it is. I don't know. That's my official position is.
I'd love to see them work more because these still don't have a carbon crown. They don't have, so they haven't taken advantage of that in terms of weight savings. That presents typically more acoustic challenges when you're working with more carbon, and that could be helpful. It could be harmful, but I'd be shocked if they're not.
Right, and the movable weights, right? All of these things that
Mm-hmm.
that create sound challenges.
Right.
And who knows, right? The new face material and that new structure likely has acoustic implications. And so again, let's throw as much tech as we can. And if we don't get to the sound and feel, it just is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Grand scheme of things, I find if you start pounding a driver down the middle, things like
Sounds
sound and feel
good.
start to matter.
Yeah, the middle of a lot of club faces sound pretty good. Pound it down the middle. you can forgive some little things quite often if you're getting the results you want. So as always, man, there's a lot of stuff. There's going to be all these articles tagged, linked. If you have questions on specific items, hit us up. Happy to answer. Happy to go into more depth as we can. Little tasty nuggets, if you will. Our survey course, a little bit of an inch deep and a mile wide, but hopefully gives you some thoughts and ideas on these things. And we're going to be at the PGA show next week, so stay tuned for some stuff there. If you have questions, let us know. But getting ready to go, go be amongst a lot of people and a lot of bacteria.
Yeah.
Until next time, we out.